It's all unraveling. The government's precious narrative about the COVID vaccinations coming undone. We have to talk about it. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Chris Martinson of Peak Prosperity. We're going to talk about this right now, vaccination misincentives and misinformation. Oh, this is such a crazy thing to be talking about here. Well, it begins with this. What do we do with this? So this comes from Mary Taylor Bowen, and she says here, if I had vaccinated the 6,000 patients I treated for COVID, I would have made $1.5 million. And so this is Anthem, which is a Blue Shield, Blue Cross kind of a thing. And you see there how much they would pay you. But that bottom in yellow, if you get 75% of your patients newly vaccinated with the COVID vaccine, they were going to pay you $250 per patient. Really strong incentives. Now, why would this be? Why would this be? Is this a loss leader in business? I mean, $250, that the vaccines wouldn't cost that much in the first place. Why were they so desperate to get everybody vaccinated? Because here's the thing. Join me on camera 3 real quick, would you? Here's the thing I know about my government. It doesn't just spend money on its people because that's the right thing to do. If that were the case, we would have all had vitamin D. Detroit wouldn't have lead in its water at this point in time. It's not what happens. So we know that it wasn't the government being excited about doing something that could actually help people, because we don't help actual citizens in this country. Migrants, sure. Foreign wars, yeah, all the money in the world. But our own people, this doesn't smell right. So I don't know what to do with this information, because this is a really powerful incentive. Imagine $1.5 million going to every doctor of her caliber treating that many patients. I mean, and that's just around these vaccines. Now, all the vaccines have similar incentive programs, again, being run through Blue Cross Blue Shield. So you'd be thinking, or other health insurance providers, and I just want to pick on them. But why? Okay, this might be a legit theory. Would go, well, because obviously studies have shown that if you give these vaccines early on, there's less expenditures over time. So this is a healthy thing to do. And the health insurance companies are incentivized internally to have healthier patients. They save money. Problem is, that's not how they work. They're not actually incentivized to have healthier people. In fact, none of our health system, if I can be honest about this, our whole so-called public health, FDA, food pyramid, food system, allopathic medicine, the way it's practiced, none of that's actually about outcomes and having people be healthier. If that were true, given the fact that the United States spends up to twice as much as other developed nations, we would have the best health outcomes. And we don't. We have the worst health outcomes out of anybody. We spend the most, have the worst outcomes. And eventually, you'd think somebody would go, that doesn't seem right. And of course, we never have that conversation. Now, there's a lot of evidence out there now, a lot, to show that the more you vaccinate children, the more they have all sorts of things like chronic conditions, otitis media, sore throats, eczema, asthma, you name it. And so now we have to wonder, well, why would they be so intrigued? Why are they so urgently wanting people to be vaccinated that they would provide this level of incentive, $1.5 million for a single doctor to just go out and put a bunch of needles in arms? Now, why? What was the rush? Because we know it wasn't public health, and we know it's not because they care about Americans. So what was the motivation? That's kind of intriguing. Now, it wasn't just this incentive. There was a wholesale push that was really, really powerful going on. And imagine if I had been this wrong about things. This is a great compendium put together by Grambian on Twitter. So listen in. Hold up 1 second while I get this pulled forward. Sorry. There we go.
Problem, period, end of story.
The only people that you can blame, this isn't shaming, this is the truth. Maybe they should be shamed, are the unvaccinated.
It's time to start blaming the unvaccinated folks, not the regular folks. anyone you came into contact with will blame you, as will the rest of us who have done the right thing by getting vaccinated.
Because frankly, we know that we can't trust the unvaccinated.
I think it's time to get our moral house in order, Anderson. It's the unvaccinated who are the threat.
All of us vaccinated folks are going to start wearing masks to protect the unvaccinated folks. It's called a Christian value.
You're basically punishing the vaccinated for the sins of the unvaccinated.
People are not behaving honorably. The unvaccinated are basically saying, well, it's open season for me. I can do whatever I want as well.
The unvaccinated are basically beating their breasts, running around the country saying, we don't care, we're living free, and so forth.
We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin.
The unvaccinated, a group that includes children and people acting like children. And the rest of us are starting to get pissed off.
The vaccinated feel the unvaccinated are making me upset or angry.
This is not about freedom or personal choice.
Well, my freedom is being kind of disturbed here. No, screw your freedom.
The other day, Howard Stern weighed in with a much different approach. Take a look.
When are we going to stop putting up with the idiots in this country and just say, it's mandatory to get vaccinated? Their freedom.
But you're treading on our freedom and you're making other people sick, and really you're killing other people.
The anti-vaxxers, they seem to have a thing for death and home remedies.
The anti-maskers turned anti-vaxxers are not just putting their own lives at risk. If that was the issue, we could just say that we can watch them compete to win place or show in the Darwin Awards.
We have to start doing things for the greater good of society and not for idiots who think that they can do their own research.
And don't get me started on the lunatics who won't take any of the COVID vaccines.
Life is too short to be an ass. Life is way too short to be ignorant of the promise of something that is helping people worldwide.
Maybe you're doing it because you're disconnected or disorganized. Maybe you have some sympathetic psychological reasons. But maybe you're just being antisocial.
Oh, you can't shame them. You can't call them stupid. You can't call them silly. Yes, they are.
Those who are not vaccinated will end up paying the price.
The unvaccinated should be taxed. They should pay more for health care.
We need to start looking at the choice to remain unvaccinated the same as we look at driving while intoxicated.
We're going to see, and I've said, almost two types of America.
Dr. Fauci said that if hospitals get any more overcrowded, they're going to have to make some very tough choices about who gets an ICU bed. That choice doesn't seem so tough to me. Vaccinated person having a heart attack, yes, come right on in. We'll take care of you. Unvaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo, rest in peace, Wheezy.
Pointing back to the unvaccinated who are really creating a problem in this country, every death that we are seeing from COVID could have been prevented.
Literally, the only people dying are the unvaccinated. And for those of you spreading misinformation, shame on you. Shame on you. I don't know how some of you sleep at night.
Again, Grabian, really well done on that. But so look at that was a weaponized PSYOP program, right? Now, they didn't have any data to support any of that stuff, right? And that was all misinformation, malinformation, disinformation. It was all flat out wrong in the sense that, well, it was wrong. And we know that now that we finally have had enough data sort of it's filtered back in. But they didn't even have the data for that to happen in the first place. So where did that come from? You just ask yourself, where did that come from that many people in that many positions of MSM authority, how did they have it that wrong? Was there not a single other voice that could have said, listen, I know you want to say that unvaccinated are the only ones dying here, but we don't have that data. It doesn't exist, right? And so that was a really potent, impressive period of time. And that was pure psychological operations. And it did a number, right? And by the way, my own personal view of this is that we are seeing now that the people who were most affected and fell for that the hardest are the people who have their identity wrapped up around being the most educated, right? So really did a number on professors, people with advanced degrees, college graduates, doctors, really did a number on those folks. And I'm worried that their brains are permanently altered by this, that they will be unable psychologically to come back from this misadventure and go, wow, I had that wrong. I trusted people. And then I pretended as if I knew what I was talking about. I spoke with moral authority, condemnation, these unvaccinated people, screw their freedoms, right? And all that stuff. Very hard to come back from that and go, wow, did I ever screw up? I got that completely wrong, right? So I'm not sure we're going to get that, recollection from them that is fair about what happened and why it happened. And remember, a good sorry has 3 parts. You say you're sorry, and you note the damage that's been done or the harm that's been done. 2, well, you have to atone for that in some meaningful way. You have to try and make up for it. And 3, all important, you have to explain in exquisite detail what steps have been taken to make sure that that doesn't happen again. Okay? If you don't have all 3 of those parts, it's not really a sorry. It's a sorry, not sorry. It's the kind of sorry that is given, but you're just going to get a similar sorry at some point in the future because the behavior is not going to change. No lessons were learned and no systems were put in place for these things to change. So you're going to get it again. Oops, sorry, again, right? Now, this is really important because we have H1N5 coming forward. They say that they've got vaccines ready for this thing. And oh my goodness, it's, in mammals now. And they're very worried about the human jump. And try and act surprised when there's some sketchy human jump that happens. And try not to look too deeply or do any of your own research into how that particular genetic subcomponent that just made that jump matches the kinds that they were just goofing around with at the Sperl laboratory down in Georgia or wherever, right? We're in the grips of these people. That's why we have to push. Common knowledge time. We have to push. We must push so that we can make sure that we hold people accountable who spread this level of misinformation, malinformation, disinformation that actually harmed people. Okay? Really important. Now, for my subscribers, I'm going to carry on. I got to talk about the markets are sending some really concerning signals. There's stuff there we got to talk about. You know me, I'm the information scout. I also believe in Leonardo da Vinci's quote, which is, learn how to see, realize that everything connects to everything else. Why would I be talking about H1N5 and then be talking about the Japanese yen? Because they do connect. You have to understand this world is hyper interconnected. All things touch on each other. And we're at a really weird moment in history where the old stories are breaking down. We're in that interregnum, the period between the reigns of kings, and we're about to get this new story. And that's an awkward period, and how you navigate that awkward period, really important. So for all my subscribers, follow me back to Peak Prosperity. We're going to be talking about this now. For everybody else, hope you enjoyed this. Remember, you should ask questions. Why did the government want to incentivize doctors so powerfully? And why did the government want to push propaganda and psychological operations around the COVID vaccine? See what kind of answers you get. Let me know down in the comments below. I can't wait to hear what you think. And until next time, we'll see you. Bye-bye.